Hey everyone, welcome back once again to another episode of Geek University. In this episode, we will be exploring the origins of the Marvel Comics character Captain Marvel. And while there have been numerous characters who have taken on the mantle of Captain Marvel, this video is going to focus mostly on the character of Carol Danvers. But don't worry, we're going to get you all caught up on everything you need to know before she makes her highly anticipated silver screen debut later this spring. But before we get started, just a reminder that if you like what you see here, please hit those subscribe and like buttons, and don't forget to ring that notification bell. Also, make sure you stick around to the end of the video for details on a very special Captain Marvel giveaway. Alright, so the first superhero to don the title of Captain Marvel was a boy named Billy Batson. He was created by writer Bill Parker and artist C.C. Beck in 1939. He made his first appearance in Whiz Comics number 2 as published by Fawcett Comics. But in 1953, Fawcett Comics was forced to stop publishing Captain Marvel stories due to lawsuits filed by DC Comics claiming that Captain Marvel was just a Superman ripoff. This led to a lapse in the trademark for the character's name and allowed Marvel Comics to swoop in and claim it for themselves in the late 1960s. A new Captain Marvel would then make his Marvel Comics debut in December of 1967 in Marvel Superheroes number 12. The character Carol Danvers is created shortly after that by writer Roy Thomas and artist Gene Colan. She first appears in March of 1968 in Marvel Superheroes number 13. She is described as an officer in the United States Air Force and the chief security officer for a restricted military base. It is here that she meets Dr. Walter Lawson, the secret identity of Captain Marvel. In Captain Marvel number 18, which was published in November of 1969, a Kree device called the Psych Magnetron explodes, combining Carol's DNA with Captain Marvel's, turning her into a human-Kree hybrid. After this explosion, Carol returns to comics as Miss Marvel in January of 1977 in Miss Marvel number 1, thus becoming Marvel Comics' first ever female superhero lead. In this issue, Carol moves to New York and accepts a job as the chief editor of Woman's Magazine, a publication owned by the Daily Bugle. She is suffering from an ailment that gives her headaches and causes her to black out. It is during these blackouts that she transforms into the superhero Miss Marvel. In Miss Marvel number 2, published in February of 1977, she seeks help from a psychiatrist named Dr. Michael Bennett. During their session together, she begins to have one of her spells and blacks out. She then transforms right in front of Dr. Bennett. This is how Carol finds out about her dual identity. One of the main themes of the early issues of this title is Carol's identity crisis as being both Carol Danvers and Miss Marvel. In Miss Marvel number 13, published in January of 1978, during a battle with Hecate, Queen of Witches, she is finally able to come to terms with her dual identity, allowing her to use Miss Marvel's strength at will, even when she isn't transformed. This title would run for 23 issues lasting from January of 1977 to April of 1979. During this run, Carol Danvers would cross over frequently with other Marvel titles, most notably with the Avengers and the X-Men. This run also includes the first appearance of another one of Marvel's most recognizable female characters, Mystique, as she makes her debut in a 3-issue story arc starting in Miss Marvel number 16. This title would also see Miss Marvel go through a costume change. Her new costume would debut in Miss Marvel number 20 and would become one of her most iconic designs. This issue would also see the former X-Men creative team of writer Chris Claremont and artist Dave Cockrum reunite. After the cancellation of her solo book, Carol Danvers would continue to show up as Miss Marvel for several years in other titles. She is asked to join the Avengers as a temporary replacement when the Scarlet Witch takes a leave of absence. She quickly establishes herself as a valuable member of the team, and it is during this time that the Carol Danvers character would find herself amidst controversy. In Avengers number 200, an immortal named Marcus chooses Carol as his mother for reincarnation on Earth. He kidnaps her into Limbo and uses subliminal emotional manipulation to cause Carol to fall in love with him. This allows him to impregnate her. Once pregnant, he sends her back to Earth where Carol experiences an accelerated pregnancy that lasts for only a few days. The new Marcus ages too quickly on Earth and must return to Limbo. Carol, still affected by his emotional manipulation, decides to return to Limbo with him. At this point, Carol would disappear from the Marvel Universe for an entire year. Obviously, a story in which a woman is falsely imprisoned, emotionally abused, raped, and impregnated against her will caused a huge uproar. It remains one of the most controversial and discussed stories in Marvel annals. And to date, none of the 4 credited writers, Jim Shooter, David Michelinie, Bob Layton, and George Perez, have been willing to accept responsibility for the story's creation. In an attempt to correct the controversy, Chris Claremont would restore some of Carol's dignity in Avengers Annual number 10. After an incident in which the mutant Rogue leaves Carol unconscious and without her memories and powers, she is saved by Spider-Woman and taken to the X-Men for help. Professor X is able to restore Carol's mind and full memories. The Avengers then appear and attempt to bring Carol back to the team. With her memories returned, Carol recounts what happened in Limbo after she left with Marcus. He continued to age rapidly even though he was no longer on Earth, and he eventually grew old and died. This broke the hold he had on her, and Carol was then able to use his time device to return to Earth. With her free will back, she expresses her disgust at the events that transpired. The Avengers try to trivialize the events and brush them off. This leads to Carol becoming incredibly angry and disavowing the team. The team leaves and Carol is left behind to rest, and this begins Carol's long history of teaming up with the X-Men. In Uncanny X-Men number 163, Carol is abducted by the mysterious Brood, who experiment on her using an evolutionary ray that triggers latent powers in her hybrid DNA. In Uncanny X-Men number 164, these newly released powers express themselves and transform Carol into the cosmic being Binary. No longer having any emotional ties keeping her on Earth, Carol decides to leave and joins the cosmic adventurers known as the Starjammers. After a battle in space causes Carol to lose much of her godlike binary powers, she returns to Earth and rejoins the Avengers. She reinstates her iconic costume with the lightning bolt and begins to become a major fixture within the Marvel Universe once more. As her popularity grew through the aughts, her importance grew as well. Miss Marvel would get her own titular series in 2006, her first since the original run in the late 70s. This all culminates in Carol eventually becoming the leader of the Mighty Avengers, a superhero team residing in New York as part of the 50-state initiative to ensure an officially sanctioned superhero team in every state. Now you may be saying to yourself, I thought this was a history of Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, and you'd be correct. But since most of Carol's history is actually as Miss Marvel, it is important to understand where she's been to understand where she's going. And in 2012, Carol emerges in a new series titled Captain Marvel. Seeing Carol in her new costume during a battle with Absorbing Man leads Captain America to suggest that she change her name to Captain Marvel. Captain America tells her the timing is right since she has a new look. She doesn't take to the idea right away, but after remembering the words of her recently deceased friend Helen Cobb, to be the best version of who you can and to not let anything stand in the way of that, she decides it is time for her to finally don the mantle of Captain Marvel. During her years as Captain Marvel, she would once again rejoin the main Avengers team. This leads Carol to come full circle with her past when the Avengers battle with Yon-Rogg, the Kree commander who was responsible for the explosion that caused Carol to gain her initial powers in 1969. Marvel then decides to send Carol into space once again and has her join the Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014's Free Comic Book Day issue of Guardians of the Galaxy. A new Captain Marvel series is then launched that shows Carol predominantly in her new cosmic role. In 2015, Carol is once again brought back to Earth in a new series called Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps, a series that has Carol as Captain Marvel lead an elite team of all-female fighter pilots. This series sees the team help Carol discover and come to terms with her origins. In 2016, Carol will play a major role in Marvel's Civil War II. This sequel to Marvel's 2006 crossover event sees Captain Marvel break away from Iron Man and lead a team of superheroes against him. Carol and her team believe that a new superhuman named Ulysses, who can accurately predict the future and determine who will commit crimes and where, is a valuable asset and should be used to its fullest extent. Contrast this to Iron Man and his team's belief that free will as it pertains to destiny should be allowed to play out, and the two teams eventually come to blows as a result. After Civil War II, Carol will star in a new series called The Mighty Captain Marvel. This series depicts Carol becoming the most popular superhero on the planet and struggling with that burden. She returns to her command of the Alpha Flight Squadron and begins searching for and training new recruits. In 2018, a miniseries titled The Life of Captain Marvel is released. This series was written by Margaret Stohl and is a retelling of Carol's origins and history. Stohl insists that it is not a reinvention of her story and is more a retelling of it from a different point of view. Carol is now slated to reprise her role as Captain Marvel in a new self-titled series that will launch in March of 2019. This launch will coincide with the premiere of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Captain Marvel film, releasing that same month. So I hope this brief history of Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel has gotten you pumped for the Captain Marvel film. If the previews have shown us anything, it is that Brie Larson is going to do Carol proud in bringing her character and spirit alive onto the big screen. I know I can't wait, and I hope to see all of you there when Captain Marvel premieres in theaters on March 8th. And in honor of the film's release, we'll be giving away this awesome Captain Marvel pop vinyl figure from the film itself. The giveaway will happen once we reach 100 subscribers on this channel. So to enter for a chance to win this awesome figure, all you need to do is like this video and subscribe to the channel. Then leave a comment down below with what geek topic you would like for us to tackle in a future episode of Geek University. Don't forget to also hit that notification bell in order to stay up to date on any new content we publish. And until next time, don't be afraid to let your geek flag fly.